Hello everyone, it is your resin 3D printing god, Akuma Mods, back again with, well, hopefully last filament FDM printer review for a little while. This is the Sunlu S9. Let's take a look. So Sunlu decided to send us this unit to test and review. It's actually been something I've been waiting for a while. I've heard some great things about the Sunlu S8 from several people I know that have them. So I was kind of excited to see the Sunlu S9. Some of the great features of this is we have some stability rods, I guess you could kind of call them, to basically keep the z-axis from moving or wobbling at any point in time. I don't really think that's necessary on some printers, but obviously with some of these printers that are mounted directly on the extrusion rail, they are kind of prone to flexing a little bit. So it is nice that they added on those little stabilizer bars to help kind of reinforce the chassis a little bit. I think for future would probably be more beneficial to incorporate it more into the extrusion rail instead of just putting it on top, especially for a larger build volume. But that's to be seen, and if they want to take my advice for it, it is what it is. So this printer basically boasts that it is a 310 by 400, and the current price on Amazon, as I'm doing this video, is listed at $459. Now, what that's going to get you is basically a CR10 style build volume. This will easily do any type of helmet that you really need. I mean, yeah, there are a couple helmets that'll probably go outside of the build volume, but for the most part, it'll get you most of the helmets that you want to print. So if you are looking to get into a bigger size printer, these style printers like the 300 build volume is a little bit more of what you're looking for. This also does feature an auto leveling. It does have the BL touch, or possibly even a 3D touch. I'll be honest, I haven't even really looked into what it is. But another thing that they boast about, which I've kind of had so-so results with, is the clog detection system. Now, I've had it where I had a clog and it stopped the print. We got it all fixed up. And then when we went and printed it again, the filament clogged again and it didn't detect it. So it seems to be maybe an issue with the software or whatnot, that you're kind of limited to one clog error per print, which is unfortunate, but hopefully when you're printing with things like a large build volume like this, you only have one clog or no clogs at all, to be in all honesty. That would be the best result, but sometimes that's just not the case. So, it is what it is. You kind of take your chances. We do also have a all metal extruder up here. It is not a dual geared extruder, which I'm a little disappointed about, considering nowadays it seems to be the gold standard to put even just the all metal one as a dual geared extruder, not the old standard just all metal one. But it still works perfectly fine. This is a Bowden setup, so it pushes the plastic as it needs. We also have a filament run out detection system, which is a little weird to play with, to try and get the filament through, in my opinion. But I mean, that's not something I haven't seen before. It is a little bit weirder to try and find that filament path to try and get it in there. But once you get it, you'll be all right. So you just gotta kind of tweak the filament a little bit to try and get it in there. This does also include a filament dryer system, which I'll be honest, I haven't ever used it. It's just been kind of sitting out here because even though I do live in the Chicagoland area, I don't really have major issues, at least with PLA, because I mostly print with PLA. and my filament being wet or anything like that. So most of the time they're packaged up, or we're just using it on the go. So either way, we just kind of print with it, and nothing really lays around for long periods of time that isn't um, boxed up or has a silica desiccant to make sure that moisture stays out of it. We do also have a dual Z system on here, which is really, really nice, especially for a large build volume like this. So you don't have to worry about the typical sagging gantry with some of these larger printers that have a single Z axis. So that's really, really nice to have. One of the I guess kind of pet peeves in my opinion is nowadays with these printers, I expect kind of more of a flex plate other than the cheap flappy mats. And don't get me wrong, they still work, but it's just like for the price you're paying for this machine at, like I said, $459, I would expect at least a flex plate, if not maybe even a glass plate. I mean, that would be best for most people. I know a lot of people love their glass plates. For me, I personally love the textured PEI sheets. I would love to see one of those on here just right out of the box. That would be great. But again, it's not something that we can't just upgrade right away. I do highly suggest if you are going to get a upgraded build mats that you do kind of upgrade the magnet on here, because this magnet is insanely thin, and that gets me worried that there's a possibility of it warping, or at least not delaminating but demagnetizing, especially if you're using higher temperatures, because it is so thin. That's my worry about it, is that it'll demagnetize and cause warping on specifically like the outer edging of the bed. Um, it's the same thing that'll happen with any time that you have a draft on a print. You know, you'll see the corners start lifting on some of these printers. One thing that I will say that I've noticed is a major issue with this printer is back here is the cable for the bed. And unfortunately, with the way that it comes out of the box, the wire is crossed over and comes up behind the back end of the extrusion. So when I pull this bed forward, it's essentially getting caught over in this corner here, and it's starting to actually rip up some of the mesh lining here. So that's something that definitely has to be looked into or taped down. Something has to be corrected with that, because that's going to cause a major issue when you are printing. And with it being the hotbed, you know, you don't want to have any fires or anything like that. So that is a big hazard in my opinion. So if you guys are looking to get into this printer, that is one thing I would highly suggest looking into, maybe even making 3D printing a track for it. I'm not a big fan of those, but I know a lot of people like them. They look amazing, but they tend to have too much pull on the wire sometimes. And a lot of times the prints don't come out as smooth as they should be. So they do end up nicking the wires on the inside. So you got to be very, very careful when you're printing a chain for any type of electronic pieces that are on your printer. So, but the other thing that it just, I don't understand it is, again, we're in the day and age of you have auto leveling on this system. It is a very large build plate. We should be using solid bed mounts. Now, I will give them the fact that they upgraded the bed springs to yellow springs, but there really shouldn't be springs on this at all. At the very least, you know, maybe the rubber silicone type ones, those blocks underneath there, that would probably be the best solution if you're going to go with something that still kind of needs some of adjusting. But in my opinion, the old school spring loaded ones, I just don't see them being needed anymore. And it's kind of something that I know some companies are trying to get out of it, but it's just we kind of need to standardize it nowadays. And again, this might just be my nitpicky thing, but again, if you have an auto leveling system, there should be no need to level your bed. The auto leveling system should do everything for you. And if it's not, there's something majorly wrong with the squareness of the actual printer. So that means that the printer is built wrong. Something's up with the printer itself. But another thing that just kind of gets me with that is not only do they have one bed leveler, they have two bed levelers on all corners. So they have four or two knobs on each corner. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8 knobs instead of your typical 4. Why they do that, I have no idea. And maybe because it's a locking system, but again, if you're going that route to lock them down from the user, why aren't we just using silicone mounts or solid mounts? I don't know. It's something that plagues me with specifically Sunlu because they did the same thing with the T3, and it kind of just blows my mind why they're still doing that type of stuff. But hey, maybe there's some reason behind it that I'm not seeing. I have no idea. But other than that, I mean, the printer hasn't been too bad. I have had some issues when we first started it where the auto leveling system didn't really mesh correctly. And while I didn't dig it down, the nozzle, I didn't dig it down into the bed, it got pretty close and just kind of sealed it in there. So if you guys are looking at this printer and you set it up, just make sure you do some proper leveling before it gets out of the box and printing on its first go, because most likely you will encounter that issue as well. So other than that, everything else has been printing pretty good. I've been more or less just printing this for production type stuff for some friends of mine. My buddy got an IKEA shelf that he needed some little tiny holders for sectional things. And you can basically put 4 of these things on a build plate at a time. And that's really, really nice to have because I can essentially do these all in one go. Now, granted, it's going to take me a long time to print this, but I can just kind of set it and forget it. And that's essentially what we did. We were just kind of going through all of our old rolls of rainbow. So as you can see, we have quite a vast array of colors here that, we just kind of blew through all of our old rolls of rainbow that have been just sitting around and kind of collecting dust. But I mean, they have been printing very, very well. You guys can kind of see the layer lines there. Sorry, there's some dog hair and stuff, but essentially they came out pretty good. Not too bad of the lines. I was expecting some issues with this filament because, as I said before, most of the time they are boxed up. These are actually Amazon return rainbow filaments, so I have no idea how long they've been sitting out in the open. I have no idea where they came from. This is some old rep wrapper stuff that got returned to me through an Amazon return program that I deal with. So I do get a lot of these type of filaments, especially the rainbow ones. So anytime that I have something that's just going to be a usable part that's going to see some wear and tear, nobody really cares about the coloring or anything like that, I kind of utilize these type of systems. So, but again, going back to like the issue of cold drafts and everything like that, we did have a little bit of lifting on the corners there, but again, that's kind of, like I said, with the delamination type stuff with the magnet, I think that's more or less what was happening on that because, like I said, this um, this magnetic sheet that's on here is literally like paper thin. It is the thinnest piece of adhesion that I've ever seen for a build plate. And if we were working with a smaller bed, I'd probably be okay with that. But since we're working with something much larger, there's a lot more room for error, especially on the outer edges here. And that kind of shows it here on the prints where we were kind of lifting on the corner there. So you can kind of see that, we kind of bowed up a little bit and started having some issues with it coming off the build plate. But again, it's been printing perfectly fine. Like I said, we did have a little bit of issues when we first took it out of the box and did our initial print. I did do a face mask print that turned out perfectly good for it. I actually did two of them, and unfortunately they're not here. They're already at the customer. But you know, that was basically my last prints that I did on here. I did them with some Arion silk gray, and they turned out beautifully. And that stuff I've had sitting around here for a little while. Again, it's been brand new boxed, so you know, we didn't really have any issues with it. But other than that, the printer's been working pretty good. I haven't really had any issues besides, you know, some minimal ones here and there. And just like I said, the major issue that I'd like to focus on in this entire printer is that heat bed wiring situation. So I'm sure you can bend the wires back, but it's the fact that it's there, and even if you know, change the path or something like that, you still just have to be aware. So maybe something simple as a zip tie can help that out. Who knows? But I'm gonna leave that in the hands of the person who's actually taking this printer off my hands, and they can do what they want with the printer. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys are looking to get into this printer, I'm really gonna leave that up to your choice, because you know, there's been, I guess, some kind of drama with the Sunlu and some people, at least on the TikTok side. And you know what? I'm gonna let that be your your kind of thought process on whether or not you want to believe what's happening. It's nothing super major. It's just some minimal drama about getting some replacement parts, and them just basically Sunlu essentially telling the end user, well, oh, it's your problem type thing. So it's not something that I haven't seen before. I've seen it in the likes of Anycubic, Reality, Elegoo, pretty much anybody that's out there you can think of. It's just kind of like those one-off things. So I mean, really, to mention it is kind of just nonsense right now. So I guess I can really just kind of take that back or strike it off. But in my opinion, I just let it be, and print away with my experience, because with my experience so far, it's been a pretty good printer. Now, as I normally say, is this a good printer to buy? It's an okay printer to buy. And one of my biggest issues, besides, you know, the wiring issue with that bed, is the price range. So at $459, this is a really hard seller at that price point. Now I understand it does come with an integrated filament dryer, which is really, really cool, super unique. Nobody else has that, but it really is only going to cater to specific people. People that are going to be printing, you know, maybe higher end filaments like nylon or something like that. So if you are looking for a big build volume and you're printing nylon and you're doing that type of stuff, okay, this might be a little bit of a better investment. But there are other printers out there that are either priced a little bit lower or around the same price that have even bigger build volumes that are just as good. But again, I don't really want to take away and say like this isn't a terrible printer. It does have its specific uses. Like I said, if you're printing with nylon or like even ASA, some higher end filaments that most people usually don't do. With the addition of that filament dryer, it definitely helps out quite a lot. Also, those who are printing with TPU, yes, I know I'm going to stop you right there. I understand it is a Bowden feed system, but that doesn't mean that you can't print TPU with it. You just might have to do some tweaks with the extruder setup, because at least with that stock extruder, it's probably not going to work very well. But if you upgrade it to maybe like a dual extruder system, you can definitely print TPU and have no issues with it. So maybe a slight upgrade on that, and that's really about it that this printer only needs. So, but yeah, other than that, it's been printing perfectly fine. So I'll let you guys, you know, figure out if you want to buy that. I will have a link down below for the little pockets or whatever you want to call them that we did for the IKEA shelving, and I'll leave that down below. I'll also leave an affiliate link down below if you guys would like to purchase this through Amazon, at least Amazon US. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the review and my weird bounciness, and Yeah. Until next time, happy printing.